At 40, she walked out of the office for the last time. The words "we're letting you go" still echoed in her mind. But it wasn't just a job, it was the life she had built. The routine she had depended on for decades, and now it was all gone. For weeks, she sat at home, staring at the walls, trying to process the sudden emptiness that had filled her days. The bills were still there, the mortgage still needed to be paid, and the fear of starting over at an age when most people felt settled weighed heavily on her. Friends offered advice, but their words felt distant, almost meaningless, and she realized that no one could navigate this for her. She had to find a way herself. At first, she tried the usual job search. She updated her resume, polished her LinkedIn profile, and sent out dozens of applications, only to hear back with polite rejections or no response at all. Every rejection was a sharp reminder that the corporate world had shifted while she had been climbing her ladder, and now, without the title and the familiarity, she felt invisible. Nights were the hardest. She would sit in her living room, staring at the city lights through the window, wondering if she had wasted her best years and if the future she dreamed of was slipping further away. Then, one morning, while scrolling through her social media feed, she stumbled upon a story of someone who had started a small online business after being fired. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't instant success, but it was real, and they had managed to create something on their own terms. Something clicked in her mind. For the first time in months, she felt a spark of possibility, a whisper that maybe this ending wasn't really the end at all. That day, she started making a list not of jobs she could apply for, but of the skills she had, the passions she had neglected, and the problems she noticed in the world around her. She realized that throughout her career, she had built not just experience, but insight into her industry, into the struggles people faced, and into processes that could be improved. It dawned on her that what she had spent years doing for others could now be channeled into something she owned. With trembling hands, she bought a domain name, created a simple website, and began offering consulting services to small businesses in her niche. It wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't easy, but every small client she landed felt like a victory, a quiet proof that she could still create value in the world. The first months were brutal. She worked late nights, learning about marketing, contracts, and networking in ways she had never needed before. There were moments when she wanted to quit, when the old fear of failure pressed down like a heavy weight. But she remembered the emptiness she had felt sitting at home after being fired, and it drove her forward. Slowly, her reputation grew. Word of mouth brought in new clients, and she began to see that she wasn't just surviving. She was building something that reflected her own vision, not the constraints of someone else's corporate structure. Within a year, she had more freedom than she had ever imagined. She set her own schedule, chose the projects she wanted to work on, and even started mentoring younger professionals in her field. The fear that had seemed insurmountable when she was fired had transformed into a quiet confidence, the kind that comes not from titles or paychecks, but from knowing that you can navigate uncertainty and come out stronger. She looked back on that day she was let go and realized that it had been the push she needed, the catalyst that forced her to step into her own power. Her story became an inspiration to those around her. Friends who had once doubted whether a career change at her age was possible now sought her advice. She began giving talks, sharing the journey of failure, resilience, and reinvention. Every time she recounted the moment she was fired, she emphasized not the shame or fear, but the choices she made afterward, the small actions that accumulated into a life that felt authentic and fulfilling. She often thought about the irony. Losing her job had felt like the worst possible outcome at the time, but it turned out to be the turning point that led her to her best life. Even on challenging days, when work was demanding or clients were difficult, she remembered the emptiness she had once felt and the clarity it had brought. She realized that her journey wasn't just about financial stability or professional success. It was about reclaiming agency over her life. She had learned that failure isn't final, that fear can be a guide rather than a prison, and that the courage to start over, no matter your age, is the most powerful choice of all. Her life at 40 had seemed like it had ended, but in reality, it had just begun. She remembered the day she got the call, how her hands had trembled as she held the phone, and how a strange mix of shock and relief washed over her. Shock, because losing a job at 40 felt like a judgment on her entire career. Relief, because deep down, she had felt trapped in a routine that no longer challenged or fulfilled her. That day, for the first time in years, She allowed herself to feel the raw weight of her emotions, the disappointment, the fear, and even the anger. She cried openly, not caring who saw, not because she had given up, but because she needed to release the tension that had built up for decades. In those quiet moments, she began to reflect. She thought about her early career, the dreams she had set aside to follow stability, the creative projects she had abandoned, and the risks she had avoided. It wasn't just about a job, it was about a life, half-lived, a voice, muted by the expectation of security and convention. The realization was painful, but it was also empowering. She understood that her next steps weren't just about finding income, they were about reclaiming herself, her ambitions, and the sense of purpose that had been dormant for too long. She started each day with small rituals, journaling about her goals, meditating to quiet the noise of doubt, and walking in the park to let her mind wander. These simple actions, though seemingly insignificant, became anchors, keeping her grounded in a world that suddenly felt uncertain. Every morning, she asked herself one question: what's the one thing I can do today that moves me closer to a life I truly want? Some days the answer was obvious: a pitch to a client, a new blog post, or a skill to learn. Other days, it was simply showing up, taking a step forward, even when nothing seemed to be happening. Her story slowly began to resonate with others. In her online posts, she shared the honesty of her journey, the failures, the doubts, and the quiet victories. People started reaching out, thanking her for her transparency and sharing their own struggles. She realized that her story wasn't just her own. It belonged to anyone who had ever felt lost, rejected, or underestimated. And with each message she received, a subtle but powerful shift occurred. She was no longer alone in her journey, and her purpose became intertwined with helping others navigate theirs. Months passed, and with persistence, she began to see tangible results. Clients valued her insights. Her voiceover of years of experience and empathy became her unique selling point, and word-of-mouth referrals slowly built her credibility. Yet, it wasn't the financial gains that mattered most. It was the transformation within her. She had learned patience, resilience, and the profound truth that growth often comes disguised as loss. Each obstacle became a lesson, each setback a nudge toward a stronger, wiser version of herself. One evening, she sat by her window, looking out at the skyline that had once seemed indifferent to her struggles. She thought about the fear that had gripped her when she first walked out of her office, and a smile formed on her lips. The same city that had once felt like a cage now felt like a canvas, a place full of possibilities waiting for her to act. And in that moment, she knew she had discovered something far more valuable than any paycheck or title: the courage to trust herself, to embrace uncertainty, and to create a life aligned with her own values. Even now, she faces challenges. Some clients are difficult, some days are longer than expected, and moments of doubt still arise. But she has learned to treat these as part of the journey, not as reflections of her worth. She keeps a notebook of small wins, reminders of how far she has come, and she revisits it when fear threatens to creep in. Her mornings remain sacred, her routines a source of strength, and her commitment to her story unshakable. Her journey is far from over, but she has already proven something vital. That life doesn't end at 40. That being fired is not a failure but a pivot point, and that ordinary people, when faced with extraordinary circumstances, can rise to create extraordinary lives. Her story stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the power of choice, and to the quiet, unstoppable force of determination that lies within every one of us. Over time, she came to see that losing her job had been a gift in disguise. It had forced her to confront her fears, to examine her priorities, and to recognize the strength she had always carried within herself. The woman who once felt powerless and uncertain had become someone who could face the unknown with clarity and confidence. She had learned that life's setbacks are not endings, but invitations to adapt, to grow, and to create a future on your own terms. Today, when she looks back on that pivotal moment, she feels gratitude rather than regret. She remembers the fear, the sleepless nights, and the self-doubt, but she also remembers the courage it took to keep moving forward. Every small decision, every step into the unknown, had built the life she now lives, her life, defined not by titles or security, but by purpose, autonomy, and fulfillment. Her story is a reminder to everyone watching: it's never too late to start over, and every ending carries within it the seeds of a new beginning. Being fired at 40 was not the end of her story, it was the chapter that made the next one extraordinary. And in that extraordinary chapter, she discovered something far more valuable than she ever imagined: herself.